that panel that we were going to do this year, is that switched over to that year, or do you have to reapply for the whole thing?
I don't know. I wrote to them regarding the panel that we were doing, translating the untranslatable international experimental poetry, the reading. And they said that they were working out their policy regarding that. But I think likely, since it was canceled, we do have a shot at doing it again in Kansas City. The times are such, I mean, let me state a cliche and say we live in strange times.
Yes, we do.
We live in strange times, so we don't know what is going to happen and how these things will formalize. I mean, we're working a day at a time on this, but they accepted my registration, so they are transferring other people's registrations, so they seem to be moving forward with Kansas City.
Okay. All right.
We will all be in masks when we read.
I just see my cohort in crime down there in the corner, F.J. Bergman, who has a fantastic back screen. Looks like something out of Lord of the Rings to me.
Wonderful. Jonathan, how are you?
FJ will be reading for the open mic as well.
FJ?
Yeah.
FJ Bergman.
You're on mute at the moment, FJ. You probably know that. Yeah.
Okay, we're now on mute. I guess we should get this party started. It's 5:05.
Yes.
And the way we work things is we hear from the founders, Mark, Jonathan, myself first. We each read a poem. Then we have our features, who tonight are Annie Finch and Harry Alluri. And after that, we have our open, which I think we're going to hear from Maris Sherlock and Bertha Rogers and F.J. Bergman, and that will be our show. Perhaps we'll have time for another open micer, depending how things go. So anyway, you are live. Jonathan, are we live on Facebook?
Facebook Live.
It says you're live.
Yeah. Facebook Live wouldn't come up, so I put us live on YouTube, and then I put that link on the Facebook page. So we're live on YouTube. And
okay, well,
and YouTube is live on Facebook.
Okay, then live from New York, the Berkshires of Massachusetts, from New Orleans. Welcome to LIT BALM. We are your literary anodyne, BALM, B-A-L-M, and we are and of course we are also the BALM. So tonight we have a great show, and let's get started. And Mark, you want to read a poem for us?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And today I'm going to read from my salmon poetry collection. Here Comes the Night Dust. Of course, it's a mirror image, but maybe that adds to the allure. Here we go. This one is called The Absurd Self Looking Both Ways at Once. Plato said the world is divided into a world of being and a world of becoming. Ecclesiastes, pessimist as he was, said there was nothing new under the sun. Hume started a revolution declaring, when I enter most intimately into what I call myself, I always stumble upon some intimate perception or other. Sartre stated that man has no self. What he thinks about himself is created from the gaze of others. Jung's unconsciousness has been haunting us for as long as we remember. Where are the hidden powers, and how do you penetrate reality in the manner of X-rays? In 1600, Jacob Böhm thought he looked into the deepest foundations of matter. Who ignores everything but moving shadows, like the frog? Wire the mind to rejoin the other mind and live in two worlds at once, embalmed in thought forms and words, a cup of consciousness, a flood of light, a sense of one-ment where the new world has no sides, no up or down. It is necessary to describe it all at once or not at all. It is impossible to illuminate one side and then another, for in moments the other side will become some other, and thus the world can never be fully measured. Yet in the bell there is a word that sings through the life of time. Is this the world of complicated mathematical relations where the objective and subjective change positions interdeterminately? In such a vision of infinite meaning, can each I raise a multitude of insights, rendering its intention? Where is all the adventure in this indecision? To awaken in the creaky, wooden, soundless, soulless world, reality dribbling through fingers, a cupped handful of wine. Should not a line take an infinite amount of time to draw? And how long does 12 o'clock last? Just ask the people inside my head, where Yeats's old mill of the mind consumes its rag and bone, or like the Buddha, untie the knots inside the mind, energizing the perceptions, reaching for the banana outside the cage, enlarging reality pulse by pulse. Is it then the other self that materializes when a soul is a spirit in abeyance of tongues never muttered? Understand, this is an astral double ensemble, a doppelganger, where Ilan's vital forces trickle into an energy of delight, or the feedback loop of a vicious circle of primal perception simply ignites.
Thank you, Mark. I thank you for inviting us into this world of sensory ideas and platonic ideas. It reminds me of Bieli St. Petersburg, the mathematics of your poem. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for inviting us into the world of your imagination, Mark Vincennes, ladies and gentlemen. We are Lit BALM. We are your literary anodyne. We are your relief. And we are coming from our epicenter to yours today. And next up, we'll hear from founder Jonathan Penton. Jonathan, are you reading your own work, or are you going to read somebody you've edited?
I am not reading my own work. I'm going to read from J.D. Nelson. This just appeared on www.unlikelystories.org, the magazine that I edit all the time. We have something new about 3 to 5 days a week. And this is from J.D. Nelson. This is called, "That Deed is a Star on the Flag for Sure." Mars and Earth, listen up. This is the big dream, and we are returning using pyramid power, alerting insects to the impending houseguest status, learning all about guts and hard luck, watering the plants in the back room of the universe, the prismatic yes of the gulping shadow. I need to see the colors of the apples, red and green and yellow, maybe a blue one for fun. And yeah, that's from J.D. Nelson.
J.D. Nelson.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. That's wonderful. That's Jonathan Penton, publisher of Unlikely Books and Unlikely Stories. And so, yes, we are your lit. And I think I will read you a poem today. I am honored to read this poem, which has appeared in an anthology that was one of the many important anthologies edited by Annie Finch. You're going to learn more about her current one, Choice Words, Writers on Abortion, when she comes up to read tonight. But she also edited Measure for Measure, an anthology of poetic meters for Penguin Random House. And she selected my poem in Piran as an example of dipodic meter. Dipodic as in the raven. So my poem I'm going to read in Piran, and in Piran has appeared in the New Press Literary Quarterly, Fulcrum, the Enchanted Verses Literary Review, and as I said, in the anthology edited by Annie, Measure for Measure, an anthology of poetic meters, which is a book you must own because it has wonderful classical and contemporary authors. Here's my poem, as Steve Cannon would say. Just read the fucking poem, Larissa. Okay. In Paran. I grew up wild and reckless in the land of desert nomads, in the arid lands that lie near the promised land and Egypt. That land of milk and honey they were saving for my brother, and the land of Pharaoh's bondage where my mother's kin were born. I lived my youth near Canaan and the slaving lands of Egypt. I lived my life an outcast in the desert of Paran. I grew up wild and stubborn, my hand against my father, at war with all my kinfolk, my kin at war with me. I grew up wild and skittish like a scared colt in a sandstorm. I laughed at mules and camels that never could break free, but I learned to run in sandstorms and how to eat my water and how to find oases and how to take the heat. I learned to talk to demons, to tempters, and to genies. I learned to talk to devils, to outcasts, just like me. I learned to love and pity my younger brother Isaac when they took him to the slaughter, not even asking why. God bade me make the manna for Isaac and his children. My demons said they'd be here, 12 tribes of them someday. In this land of desert nomads, near the promised land in Egypt, near the land of milk and honey, in the desert of Paran. And that's that. Thank you, Annie, for publishing that. Thank you very much.
Wonderful to hear.
Thank you so much, Annie. So, I have read you Jonathan's bio, and I've read you Mark's bio. And as for my bio, I'd like you to know that tracks from my CDs Exorcism and the No Net World are available from YouTube Music, Google Music, Spotify, Rhapsody, all digital distributors. So stream it and give me a penny or a fraction of a penny, and I'd be grateful. You know, please stream my music. Also, I have a new novel, Sly Bang, which is a feminist experimental sci-fi. Well, see for yourself. It's different. It's called Sly Bang. So
Larissa, Hari was asking you a question in chat. He wanted to know the name of the anthology again.
Oh, the name of the anthology, edited by Annie Finch, is Measure for Measure, an anthology of poetic meters, Penguin, and it's from Penguin Random House.
Thank you.
And as long as we have you here, Harry, how are you today? We're looking forward to your feature, which is coming up right now.
Thank you. I'm doing really well.
I have forgotten
nice
to
to
ask
be
everybody the question for this reading. Our question for this reading is page or stage. So after your feature, I'm going to ask you, Harry, to weigh in. What do you write for? Do you write for the page? Do you write for the stage? I know everybody's going to be tempted to say both, but if you have a preference, let us know. All right, let me read you something about Hari Alluri, who answers to him, he, and Sia. He is the author of The Flayed City, Carving Ashes, and the chapbook of The Promise of Rust. He is a winner of the 2020 Leonard A. Slade Jr. Poetry Fellowship for Poets of Color and a co-founding editor of Locked Horn Press. His current projects are supported by grants from the BC Arts Council and the Canada Council for the Arts. His work appears recently in some pretty wonderful journals: Anomaly, The Margins, Massachusetts Review, Poetry, Pulp Mouth, and Quiddity, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Hari Alluri. Yay!
Thank you, Larissa. I just want to quickly give thanks to Key Kite First Nations, which is the folks on whose unceded land I am, New Westminster, BC, aka. Thanks to LIT BALM. Thank you, Larissa. Thank you, Jonathan and Mark. Thank you for the space. I think we all need it. I'm really grateful to like all the folks who are making community, you know, through this quarantine and hopefully beyond. I want to give a little special shout out, and I'll put their links in later. Community Building Artworks, founded by Seema Reza, is like a space where I'm essentially writing 2, 3, 4 times a week. And I just feel like sharing some stuff from that time. And the Digital Sala, which is a community that just kind of came up impromptu. And we kind of put together this Filipinx Lit Fest on just like gusto and desire, you know? And I'm reading with them a little bit later on today at 5 p.m. PST. Also to my buddy Arthur Kazakian, I don't know if he could make it today, but I'm going to be recommending him for a future feature. His like, he's been writing this stuff, and I'm like, intergalactic psychic, and the meter is ridiculous what he's doing. So I just want to like give a shout out to some folks real quick. Thank you. I'll just read. But I would like to call this reading How to Eat My Water after that line from Larissa. How to Eat My Water. Dear quarantine, a few small things you've taught me. When I ask beloved what she wants for breakfast and she says eggs, she means with rice. When her daughter's tween on phone squeal breaks past all upper registers into soundlessness, it means a word for joy us poets haven't invented yet. We have work to do, you tell me. Something as small as wiping up the mess I make while I'm cooking. You mean for us to work. Something as small as getting up when, after I text Seema 3 hours ahead that my alarm for yesterday's workshop just went off again, she responds, so now you can come to today's. You're teaching me, dear quarantine, there's a language of showing up. I like to speak most from my couch, which is where I'm sitting right now. I like to speak most from my couch. It's quieter, and not because it's snowing. I mean, because the dream world has more space. Of course, I include nightmares. It's not the multi-scene 20-year battles of my repeated ones. It's not even the I can't do this. I repeat, egg yolk on the floor as I do the thing I just can't do. It's something smaller, what you're teaching me by taking away so much. You're bringing me a few steps closer to my own wholeness. Fuck you for that, and thank you. May your nightmares turn toward their inner elbows when they cough. Social distancing I'm calling this one mixed metaphor exercise just because it's a mixed metaphor exercise is what it is. Social distancing is like a junkyard superhero, which is to say it does its best work unseen. That slow picking through for what might return to the world at large, that mountain of every name I will not touch, which is to say it's messy out here, even with these emptier streets, as in, among the detritus, a burning disguise, not the superheroes, but of those of us who admit we need that saving. Here is a piece of my disguise that you can burn. I don't need your help. Here, a piece of my writing's disguise to feed the fire. I do it alone. I don't know how far it is from my junkyard to yours, but I'll approximate a calculation. Take the hard-won melody a baseline hungers for, multiply it by the hunger in a zoo, not for food. The zookeeper feeds regular, for the hunting of food, or the hunt at all, even if you're one of those animals used to being treated as a meal by an animal in another cage, your hunger for the chase, the breathless escape. How, if you did escape the zoo, find yourself in, of all jungles, a junkyard, you might peek round the bent parts of a metal mountain, look across the fire of a burning disguise, and yearn to singe even a little of your fur, to remind yourself the smell of this place. taking off my outside clothes in the doorway is a kind of prayer. I strip, and I am asking for the safety of those I live with. I had to go out. Yes, when it was groceries and soap. Yes, too, for addiction. I still smoke. I got the message when my boy in England enumerated for us how and why we need to get ready. Also to stop sharing the memes giving us levity with our solitude. Sorry, brother. I share what's funny anyway. Our desperation belongs everywhere right now. Doors or no, someone is entering a space they share with people they love or tolerate, or like, or just help out, or want to touch, or wish they could get away from. The door barely closed, and I'm praying in my socks. May I not have brought what we're all afraid of catching, the way I bring how thin my threads already are. Shouting before I left the house carries an older poison. I act like I can leave it on the shut side of a door. I roll my outside clothes into a plastic bag. As if drawn, from gazing directly at the sun, the faintest mocking quarter notes of silence who graze from roof to tree and mock the quarter notes between the mockingbirds, falling now, worried as a lullaby at the edge of sleep. Sleep says nothing, lifts the needle back onto the record after Curtis Mayfield's final kindness. That rising melt of sound wants to lick the couch in the other room, its crackle repeatedly unscratched, perhaps to hear the layers of gaps beneath his falsetto body better. The sky makes a face as if growing impatient and freshly cut. Your smoke is green. It's all in words. Dear inner voice of doubt, right now your equal portions rot, eaten by grass and household fly. Perfectly and in all fault, I mean just that. Receive this boiled advice as I have yours. Coax your own doom. Arrive with bell fires all ready to loose a sun that tries to say love more roundly. Against what you demand of me, there is no joy you don't deserve. For what you're worth, be sieved. And this is the last one I'm going to read. I hope I timed it out to just at or under 5 minutes. I had another one planned, but just really like based on what Mark and Jonathan read, I kind of was like, oh, this reminds me of a poem. And it's one from a project I'm working on. The working title is A Quiet of Arrows. It's a chapbook I hope comes out. Kind of like most of the poems that have been, like maybe about half of the poems that have been appearing recently in journals are from this project. It's about a character named Ekalavya. I'll tell you more another time, but Ekalavya Mudra. Which stars are left to form the outline of open hands mid-sky? Receiving bowstring from the weaver constellation. The primordial hunter is a night-lit figure darkness makes behind the evening's arrow points of bright. Not wielding the objects of my craft, but prostrate like a fallen branch. For living roots to climb, I lash after it snaps one practice bow to another. A trellis. My favorite sculpture is nurse log at bloom, like jungle, and it lunges. I am shaken by the lust of my bow brought forth. It's wanting all hackles, the shape anything takes when taken to fullest thirst. Jackal's lullaby waits nearby. To hold back the abyss, I reach my arms to invite in joy without pain, forgetting how they gnarl at bones with their shared teeth. I chop another branch, whittle precipices, my birth and death, the infinite, may I bridge with obsession. Ask my bow, what is a bow? A bow is a thing that gives. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Harry, what was the line? What was the line? To know my wholeness by what you have taken away. Fuck you. Wonderful. What wonderful imagery. Brilliant, wonderful
Thank you.
imagery. A bow is something that gives. Thank you for giving to us today, Ari. Okay, so let's put you on the spot on my question. Page or stage, Ari?
You know, although absolutely, I come from both, and I come from a place where I feel like, you know, the oldest poems, before we had writing, we had poems. And so sound really does matter to me. And although I write, especially like when I'm drafting, I draft in like my out loud voice. I try to draft as much as possible in my out loud voice, but I absolutely revise for the page. The page is a guide. The page is what the poem has to live with without my own voice reading it. And so the decisions I make have to be towards, like, when I stop thinking about what I want and when I start to think about like, what does the poem want? And I kind of like chant that shit in my head all the time, and it's really annoying. I don't know, anybody who, like me, sometimes takes years to revise a single poem. You know, some of them come fast and you let them go and you're very grateful every few years for one of those. But in between, you sweat a poem and listen to it and try to listen better. And that listening happens on the page. Even though I do read out loud to myself, and even though I hope that it always comes to sound, because, Ilya Kaminsky is one of my mentors. And, you know, as a deaf poet, he has like the most music you'll ever hear in a poem. And like, that reminds me that like there's music even on the page. And so if I would say that, yeah, I begin in sound and I move toward what the poem wants on the page, what the poem wants to do when it's free of me.
What the poem wants to do when it is free of me. The mort d'auteur.
That's right.
With the poem free of me. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up
so much for this space. I appreciate it.
All right, we are continuing with our feature portion of our show. We are Lit Balm. We are your literary anodyne. Reminding you to tune in next week when we have Donald Ravel, Joseph Lease, and David Blair. Also on March 9th, we have Helene Cardona and Christina Bisher. And on the 16th, we have a special forum, a special panel on the New Orleans Poetry Festival. And we're going to hear from Bill Lavender and Megan Burns, and that's going to be moderated by our very own Jonathan Panton. So we have a wonderful set of and on the 30th, you're going to hear from us. The founders are going to read, and we have a special surprise for that. So keep with us. Thank you very much. I am now honored and thrilled to bring up my mentor and my teacher, Annie Finch. Annie Finch is an award-winning feminist poet and writer, author of Spells, New and Selected Poems, The Poetry-Rich Little Book of Spells, and Among the Goddesses, which was the winner of the Sarasvati Award for Poetry. She has published many influential books on poetry and edited numerous anthologies, most recently, and this is landmark, ladies and gentlemen, this is huge, most recently, Choice Words, Writers on Abortion from Haymarket Books. Her poetry has appeared in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Paris Review, the Penguin Book of 20th Century American Poetry, and on stage at Carnegie Hall. Based in Washington, she travels to teach and perform. Annie, before you read, I'd like you, if you would, tell us a few, I would like to actually mention about Choice Words, and I'd like Annie, after I tell you who is in this anthology. The contributors include Amy Tan, Ann Sexton, Audre Lorde, Bobby Louise Hawkins, Gwendolyn Brooks, Dorothy Parker, Gloria Naylor, Margaret Atwood, Molly Peacock, and yours truly. I'm honored to be in there. Annie, can you tell us a few words about upcoming events for Choice Words?
Yeah, I'm doing an event the day after tomorrow, Monday at 7 p.m. EST, sponsored by the Harvard Bookstore. That'll be on Zoom, and it's me and two of the contributors, Desiree Cooper and Kristen Godsey. Kristen Godsey is well known for her book, Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism. It should be a really great discussion. That's Monday night at 7 p.m., sponsored by Harvard Bookstore. And then on May 9th at 2 p.m. EST, we're going to do an international event with 8 or 9 writers from different this book actually covers 6 continents. So we have writers from South Africa, Scotland, Hungary, Argentina, and other countries will be all coming together to talk about abortion internationally. And that should be an amazing celebration of the book that's global. That'll be May 9th at 2 p.m.
That's wonderful.
All of it on Zoom.
I am thrilled beyond belief to be in this anthology. I understand that you are sending copies to abortion clinics throughout the nation.
Yes, we are donating copies. Almost 100 copies are going to be donated. We did a fundraiser with Kickstarter to cover the permissions about a year ago, and a lot of people donated copies to clinics as part of that. We're going to be focusing on clinics in states where abortion is most under attack right now. So there are going to be copies in clinic waiting rooms for solidarity and support.
That's wonderful. Annie, thank you so much for your work, your amazing anthologies, and your amazing contributions to poetry. Would you grace us now with your feature? Annie Finch, ladies and gentlemen, give it up.
Casting a circle, I move to the east. Web weaver, spin the air, sing dark, sing light, aware. Casting a circle, I move to the north. Root in richness, seed our birth, fill us, ground us, fill us, earth. Casting a circle, I move to the west. Heart of the waves rocking flow in us. Love sweet as water, come, grow in us. Casting a circle, I move to the south. Light the spark, spark the life, live the fire, fire the will the dance, dance desire. Casting a circle, I move to the center. Come spiral of outer and inner, above and below, center spinner. Earth Day. All we want is to find the love in the faces of the people we love. All we need is to find the dark in the nighttime sky, to lie down to sleep in the darkness where stars and moon keep vigil in the silence of a sleeping earth. All we require is to wake to sunlight in the morning, to simple sky, to breathe aloud as the sky is breathing, to taste the water of the earth. All we need is to touch the planet and find it clean where we were born, where our ancestors breathed and planted, where we live with the plants and the birds. All we need is to live with the memory of a future we want to imagine. All we want is to find the love in the faces of the planet we love. This is a brand new poem for the current moment. It's called The Reaping Silence. Now death begins to stalk with open hand that could deliver mercy or a blow across the reaping silence on our land. Hands are washed, breath held. A wedding band is twisted. Someone's voice can carry low as death begins to stalk with open hand through what's unfinished. What we understand, masks, flowers, garlic, is still ours to sow across the reaping silence on our land. We clean and sing, reach out as best we can, then find ourselves at last alone. We slow as death begins to stalk with open hand and steady feet, the truths of our demand, whispering, hold it close or let it go. Across the reaping silence on a land where birdsong carries far more than we'd planned it ever would above the traffic flow. As death begins to stalk, with open hand, we meet the reaping. Silence on our land. This is the one from Choice Words. An abortion day spell for two voices. As I turn your blood back to the earth, I am life, you are death, and we kiss through the fire that is my freedom's birth. By the womb of our love's endlessness, as you turn my blood back to the earth, I am death, you are life, and we kiss as we move through the deep, giving forth to the web that is love-woven bliss by the fire that is our freedom's birth. She is riding the branch. When our mother, like flame, comes to take her life back, life burns back, and again, flame is all that she has, rising up from the coals, folding into the sky from her now. All is changed, and she glows on the same. Life burns back, and again, flame is all that she has, since she gave up her land once to strangers. We call from her now. All is changed, and she glows on the same, rising up from the coals, folding into the sky, since she gave up her land once to strangers. We call like the embers that pulse. She is moving away, rising up from the coals, folding into the sky where her heart glows blue-yellow again through the night. Like the embers that pulse, she is moving away and returning to dark as a creature again, where her heart glows blue-yellow again through the night, and we lie in our newer grave with softer hearts. She's returning to dark as a creature again. She is riding the branch. She will bring us to be as we lie in our newer grave with softer hearts, where her body remembers the throb of the trees. She is riding the branch. She will bring us to be when our mother, like flame, comes to take her life back, where her body remembers the throb of the trees rising up from the coals, folding into the sky. Earth spell. Lie on earth and let her spell soil small shadow through your blood. Learn again what leaf prints tell, mud and solace, dust and mud. Let her know your blossoming, smell your autumn, bring your spring. follow where her leaf feet fell, dying live in you like food. Let her live and die and live.
Thank you, Annie Finch, ladies and gentlemen. You know, Annie, wonderful stuff. You know, your poems are so full of motion. They ride, they rise, they dance. You know, the movement of the movement of extraordinary words. Thank you so very much. All right, so we put you on the spot now, page or stage?
I have got to say stage. I mean, I can do 30 drafts of a poem and I can do 20 years working on a poem, but when it comes right down to it, it's the goal of all the revision and all of the work on the page is so that it can live off the page and hopefully be memorizable. I think that's my real love, is when a poem memorizes itself, like when I feel that it's easy to memorize and someone can carry it around with them. Like those are the poems I love the most, the ones that I have in my mind, and they're not on the page at all.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Annie Finch. And ladies and gentlemen, get a copy of Choice Words at this time when abortion rights are so severely, severely challenged. This book is spreading the word. This book has it's an amazing anthology with all kinds of important, Langston Hughes is in there. I mean, there are amazing things in this book. So get a copy of Choice Words from Haymarket. And is it on Amazon as well?
It's on Amazon, yeah, it's everywhere, yeah.
Get a copy of Choice Words, support this important freedom for us women. Thank you so very much. Annie Finch, give it up, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, glad to be here.
Thank you. So I want to thank our features, Hari Alluri and Annie Finch. We're now moving into the open section of our reading. We're going to have 3 readers, maybe 4, each person will grace us with 1 poem. And I'm very pleased to welcome Bright Hills. You are the spirit of Bright Hills. Even if you have retired, Bertha, you're still the spirit of Bright Hills. I'd like to welcome Bertha Rogers to the mic. Bertha, please take it away.
Thank you. The poem I'm going to read is from this collection that came out last year from Salmon, Wild Again, and it's called Easter Monday, and it's to the memory of my husband who died a few years ago, Ernest Fishman. Men who wear suspenders adapt to April as if warmth had been there for taking. They easily discard stiff brown coats to bend under the hoods of cars, rake leaves at Woodside, each man's broad back bringing yours to me, your length soaked. You lean and turn while the water pours over us, and I enter the ellipse of your arms. On the highway, a cat brought forth by love, one pink ear erect from grated macadam, the sun filtering membrane as if through a petal, a portion of a rose window. I could retreat from the line we drew, part from you, but you reach beyond me, your Houdini hand cleaving tissue as if I weren't flesh, only illusion. I tell you, I could be solitary again, not allow one hand to touch, not the masseur's 10 blind fingers in his shuttered room, nor your more probing ones. No, I could be alone this last time for all time. But I consider your silhouette against my easterly window, the sun spanning the horizon, leafless cherry trees, black cap briars. I could turn back before we rearrange the furniture to suit, and you inside this room with me, or I in your car, you driving and musing, I freely sleeping past mountains. I am enraptured and appalled by the homeliness of it. Listen, are we any of us anything but brief appearances in each other's lives? as Gabriel to the unsuspecting Mary, to Joseph in that smaller, more restrained meeting. Aren't we also miracles? We who wear no visible wings announce nothing more portentous than love. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertha. Your wings are visible tonight, Bertha. Thank you for that lovely poem. All right, let's put you on the spot. Page or stage?
Well, I started Word Thursdays because I had to hear the words, and I've always believed in the oral and poetry. So I would say first stage, but really I'm like everybody else, I revise a lot. I spend a lot of time with the poems before they leave my desk even. So mezzo.
Mezzo. Okay, wonderful. A poem, who is it? Is it Valerie that said a poem is never finished, only abandoned?
I don't know who said it, but I know the quote.
Yeah, it is Valerie.
It is Valerie.
It was Valerie?
Yes.
Okay.
So a poem is never finished, it is only abandoned.
Right.
And we cling to our poems 20 years in, we are still looking for that syllable, the perfect syllable to our poem.
Yeah, Auden and Yates were doing that a lot.
Wonderful. Okay, splendid. Now we have from Romania, where it must be 1 o'clock in the morning. Marius, are you still with us, Marius Serla?
I'm here.
Marius, from Romania, a translator and a poet. Tell us something about your translations, Marius.
I've been publishing some translations with Mark on Asymptote and Solstice from a Romanian poet that died in the 90s. And I also do some English to Romanian translations with Cristian Sescu. And we published some in Romanian magazines from Fadi Juda and Waldrep. And that's what I do for translations, but I also am writing poetry. I'm a physicist at my basis, and I do this like a hobby, writing, and it makes me feel good. And I will be reading a poem from a project I'm working on for some time, and let's hear it. The winter is coming to Fukushima. Watch the sky as it burns into your chest, all that oxygen igniting your unimaginable desire of warfare. No asteroids, but screams lighting it in the dark. As I pass millimeters away, you touch only my fear, a mushroom ready to break the bonds between atoms, and walk further as light changes deep inside you alone, and the womb like a forest, and come back to me as the hound in you never will. This is my short poem for tonight.
Thank you very much. Marius, that is lovely. What time is it there right now?
It's 1 o'clock in the morning.
Well, welcome, lucubrating with LIT BALM. Thank you so much, Marius. Now we put you on the spot, page or stage?
I'm for the page.
And that's it? No, any explanation why?
Well, no, I'm more comfortable with the page. I didn't experience much of the stage. That's why.
Okay, well, that was a lovely reading. So you're embracing the stage tonight. Thank you very much. All right, next up, we would like to bring the lovely and talented F.G. Bergman. Are you with us, F.G.?
Doesn't look that way.
I believe she had to go. She said it might be a bit patchy. She's actually out. So
okay, good enough. I have a Chocolate Waters. Are you still with us?
I'm here.
Hello, Chocolate. How are you, love?
How are you?
I'm wondering if you can grace us with a poem.
I will. And I just want to say that the video is not on because the way I look today scares even me. So I have a new book coming out, hopefully next month. It's called Muddying the Holy Waters. Bertha is familiar with it because she's just finished the manuscript and written me a lovely blurb. for it, and I'm going to do, it's autobiographical, as almost all of my work is. It includes poems, essays, and old family photographs. So I'm going to do one short piece from Muddying the Holy Waters, and it is Growing Up Story Number 1. When I was 4, we lived in Beaufort, South Carolina, just outside the Parris Island Naval Base. Mom Pauline made me wear dresses I hated, drab, gray, and white checkered things, always hanging off me like flour sacks. My dad, Emery, let me pick out corduroy jeans, soft, comfy, unconfined. Pauline made me wear a little red hat. I was always swatting the tassels that streamed down my face and looked like the entrails of a chicken. I loved going to preschool, could already read, was learning to write from the brightly colored plastic alphabet stencils. Lorraine, the lady who rented the little house behind ours, had bought especially for me. I loved going to see her until one day, her husband, Don, appeared in the living room in his boxers, his dick hanging out. I ran out, told Emery. He exploded. My alphabet stencils disappeared. So did Dawn and Lorraine.
Chocolate, thank you very much. Chocolate is noted in several textbooks, I believe, as an important contributor to our second wave feminism, and important for her work, and it has been noted for her work in feminism by several textbooks, as I recall. Right, Chocolate? Okay, Chocolate,
Yes.
You are on the page or stage?
Obviously, the stage. I think poetry is an oral art. It's meant to be performed, or at least dramatically read. And I've been a performer. I started performing my work in the early 70s when there weren't performance poets, when everybody just read. And now that everyone's a performance poet, I say, I'm just going to read.
Thank you, Chocolate Waters, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice to be here. Loved it. Thank you.
All right, well, that is our show for tonight. I'd like to thank once again Hari, Alluri, and Annie Finch for their wonderful features. Thank you to the readers on the open, which was wonderful tonight. I'd like you to come back next week for Donald Ravel, Joseph Lease, and David Blair. It should be a fantastic.
Who is with us right now down in the corner there? I can see him.
Oh, David, we get David to do a little preview?
Yeah, why not? You have a little short one you can grace us with?
Is there a poem you can grace us with, David? Wonderful.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yay, yes, we can.
All right, let me see. I'll just open it up at random. Here's a real short poem. Problems with the early times poetry. Out with yard stars and the ragged tomatoes and coffins, the big houses and the grills throw smoke. Eat the whole grill, why don't you? Big country. We all loved younger poets. Let me tell you of the early days when the settlers lived in these log cabins and did nothing but make Alpo. They were writing folksy love poems. They were smearing chia pet seed all over the terracotta sculptures of Yoda. They missed the paths through the dunes and wound up in the dunes with some biting brown flies, and then pricked by cactuses and dune grass with secretive sawtooth edges. They filled households with heads in the rain, piling creative anachronism shields and swords made from black foam wrapped in silver duct tape. Their beards and their armpits smelled like green lentils cooked with smoked ham hocks. There were hordes, and they lived cheap, but they slept late. Oh, thanks. I didn't know I was going to read it.
And you got an able assist from your cat who liked the.
Yes. And I got to read for Annie too.
Biting, wonderful, wonderful. David, nice. Okay, you're on the spot. Page or stage?
Oh, thanks.
Page or stage? Can you hear me?
Oh, page or stage? I don't think you really have to choose. Okay. You know, there are different kinds of stages. It's a different stage in your head. Little better stereo system. It's like wearing headphones and listening to an album. And stage is really good too. You know, but it's all tone.
It's all tone. It's fabulous. Come back next week, Donald Ravel, Joseph Leach, and David Blair. And we are ending this show tonight. I'd like to leave you with my vow, which is we will love like dogwood, kiss like cranes, die like moths. I promise. Good night, folks.
Oh, beautiful.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you, Larissa.
Our website.
Can I say one thing, Larissa?
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Since you were my mentee in terms of like meter and all that, I've just launched a whole bunch of classes on my website on writing and scansion and meter and all that great stuff. So like how to scan a poem on Tuesday, it's a 2-hour class and they're really cheap and they should be fun. And so if anybody wants to play around with meter and form, you can go to my website and check out the offerings. I'm trying to be good at promoting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, Annie's website is anniefinch.com, or you can look at apoetscraft.com.
Poetscraft.com should take you to the website as well. Yeah, that's the name of the classes. They're all called A Poet's Craft.
These are wonderful. I think of the witches' cups and wands as I think of the scansion marks, specific to the witch cups and wands as we scan those wonderful poems and try to get them into the meter. I'm a protege of John Donne. My meter's ragged.
Great to hear your dichotic meter. It was so beautiful.
My meter is. If it's trochaic, I can do it. If it's iambic, I falter. But
people have their own little metrical signatures, which is one of the most amazing things about teaching scansion. And they don't usually think of it when people teach it. They don't usually teach it in that holistic way. But for me, that, as you know, that's so important, is that each person has like an emotional, physical, spiritual connection to different meters in a different pattern. So it's an aesthetic expression. It's not just.
I know I'm a trochee girl. I'm a trochee girl. Da 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 da.
It was so great to hear that poem. It sounded amazing.
As opposed to da 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 da. I am. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is our show for tonight. Mark, Jonathan, you have any parting words for us tonight?
Nothing special. Just take care of yourself. Stay safe. And dream in rhyme.
Jonathan, want to say goodbye to everybody? Good night.
Yeah. See you next week.
See you next week.
Happy here.
Next week.
Check out our website at www.litbalm.org. Also, we are litbalm.org on YouTube. And all of our shows are on YouTube. Check out our website. It has a listing of upcoming shows, past shows, and all the links, all the various links to our good, wonderful shows on YouTube and live stream. All right, live from New York, the Berkshires, New Orleans, and everywhere else, we say good night to you and happy poetry. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, David.
Good night. See you next week.
See you next week, David.
Can't wait. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Good night, Dean. Congratulations on the finalist.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. I'll see you next week.
See you next week. Good. Looking forward.
Bye, Larissa. Bye, Jonathan.
Bye, Annie.
Bye, Annie.
Great to see you.
Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Annie. Good night.
Oh, hi, I'm new. I've never been here before.
Hello.
Francesca. Oh, hi.
Hello, Francesca. Hello, Francesca. How are you?
Oh, I'm well. Thank you very much for letting me be in here.
No, thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We are now in the after party portion